Imagine 50,000 people screaming in a massive London stadium, entirely lost in the flashing lights and the heavy bass. It is the kind of moment where reality completely disappears. Bad Bunny made history as the first Latin artist to sell out a stadium headline show in the United Kingdom. On the surface, it looked like the ultimate celebration of Latin culture, a massive party where the language barrier melted away and everyone was simply high on the music. But if one looks a little closer, beneath the smoke and mirrors of the stage, something much more calculated was unfolding. The global superstar, dressed in a sharp cream suit, decided to slow down the frantic energy of the stadium to deliver a deep, emotional message. He turned his attention towards South America, specifically addressing the devastating earthquakes that had just ripped through Venezuela days prior, leaving thousands in panic and despair. With the cameras rolling and thousands of phones capturing his every move, Benito spoke directly to the Venezuelan communities living in London and across the world. He told them that all Latinos stand with them, sending strength to what he called a very strong country. Shh, turn the volume up, but keep it low. This is rap's deepest secrets, the one place the labels can't control, exposing the codes, the cover-ups, the real cost of fame. Now back to the video. It was a beautiful, heart-wrenching moment that supposedly reduced parts of the crowd to tears. The media immediately began praising the artist for using his massive platform to highlight a real-world tragedy, rather than just collecting his multi-million-dollar paycheck. After all, what could possibly be suspicious about a global icon pausing a historic, record-breaking concert to show love to a suffering nation? It is the perfect narrative. A Puerto Rican superstar standing in the cold of London, wrapping his warmth around the people of Caracas. The timing was absolute perfection, almost too perfect. It managed to completely overshadow the massive corporate sponsorships, the exorbitant ticket prices, and the sheer commercial weight of the entire tour. By shifting the spotlight to a humanitarian crisis, the artist transformed from a commercial pop product into a selfless global savior in the span of a single song. It is amazing how a brief moment of public mourning can instantly grant a billionaire celebrity complete immunity from any form of cynical criticism. The true irony of the evening, however, did not lie in the emotional speech or the somber dedication of a pop ballad. The real twist was waiting in the very structure of the performance itself. While Bad Bunny was on stage acting as the ultimate voice of Latin solidarity, a giant cartoon toad suddenly appeared on the massive stadium screens. This digital amphibian explicitly lectured the English-speaking audience members, warning them that if they did not understand Spanish, they were completely missing the message. The crowd laughed, thinking it was just a quirky, edgy part of the artistic presentation. But the toad was right, though perhaps not in the way the audience thought. The message being missed was not about the lyrics or the tribute to Venezuela. The real message was the elaborate illusion of intimacy. This is the ultimate genius of modern celebrity marketing. It transforms ordinary consumerism into an act of profound political and social virtue. The suspicion deepens when you examine the specific song chosen for this grand tribute. The track Turista is not an anthem of resilience. It is not a song about overcoming adversity or building a brighter future. It is a song wrapped in melancholy, a track that speaks to the transient nature of human relationships and experiences. To dedicate a song about being a temporary observer to a population currently dealing with the terrifying, permanent destruction of an earthquake is an irony so thick you could cut it with a knife. But of course, the thousands of screaming fans in London did not notice the contradiction. They were too busy watching the giant toad on the screen, too busy filming themselves crying on their phones, and too busy absorbing the carefully curated aesthetic of sadness. The performance allowed the audience to experience the thrilling emotion of a tragedy without having to endure any of the actual discomfort, displacement, or fear that the people in Venezuela were experiencing at that exact moment.
Consider the sheer geographical disconnect of the entire spectacle.
London is thousands of miles away from Venezuela. The Venezuelan diaspora in London is a vibrant, hard-working community, many of whom have fled difficult political and economic circumstances in their homeland. To have a billionaire artist from Puerto Rico stand on a stage in the United Kingdom and offer them words of strength while surrounded by multi-million-dollar pyrotechnics is a surreal display of wealth and detachment. Benito told the crowd that all Latinos around the world stand with Venezuela. It is a beautiful sentiment, a sweeping statement that sounds incredible when echoed through state-of-the-art stadium speakers. But what does that standing actually look like? Does it look like a wire transfer of financial aid? Does it look like emergency supplies shipped to Caracas? Or does it simply look like 50,000 people holding up their glowing smartphone flashlights while a pop star sings a sad song? The reality is that the words costs nothing, but the publicity they generate for the tour is absolutely priceless. The mechanism of this performance functions like a classic magic trick. The left hand holds up a message of solidarity and love for Venezuela, drawing every eye in the stadium and every lens of the music press to this beautiful act of artistic charity. Meanwhile, the right hand quietly collects the massive revenue generated by ticket sales, merchandise, and global streaming spikes. By the time the final notes of Turista faded into the London night, the media narrative was already written. Bad Bunny was not just a pop star, he was a conscious artist, a leader of his people, a man who carries the weight of an entire continent on his shoulders. The suspicious element is how easily this narrative is accepted without a single question. No one asks why a message of solidarity requires a giant cartoon toad to insult the non-Spanish speakers in the audience. No one asks why the tribute happened in London rather than through direct, practical action. The spectacle itself is treated as the solution to the crisis. This brings us back to the ultimate twist of that fateful evening, a contrast so sharp it reveals the entire performance as an elaborate piece of theater. While the stadium in London was safe, warm, and filled with the beautiful sounds of a perfectly mixed acoustic guitar, the ground in Venezuela was still actively trembling. The real world does not have a soundtrack. It does not have pre-programmed lighting cues or corporate-issued LED wristbands that blink in unison with the beat of a drum. While Benito was safely standing in his cream suit, basking in the adoration of a sold-out crowd, actual people were pulling themselves out of rubble, looking for lost loved ones, and wondering how they would survive the coming weeks. The contrast between the simulated empathy of the stadium and the harsh reality of the earthquake zone is the ultimate definition of modern absurdity. The tragedy was entirely real, but its presentation in London was nothing more than high-end entertainment, a beautifully packaged product designed to make the consumers feel good about themselves while the artist elevated his global brand to even greater heights.